Hello, students. Welcome to EasyElimu, Learning Simplified. I am your teacher, Mr. Stanley Ombogo. So, dear students, on to today's analysis of Fathers of Nation, that is Chapter 3 summary. We are going to look at some of the episodes that we have in Chapter 8, uh, having looked at the episodes in the previous chapter. So, dear students, brace up for this interesting uh, chapter. So in chapter 8, we have two episodes, that is two major episodes. Remember, we look at these episodes based on the major events that take place in the chapter. So chapter 8 talks about Chineke Chiamaka. So I'm calling the character Chineke Chiamaka for a reason that we are yet to discover. Remember, he is referred to as Pastor Chiamaka, but in this chapter, the first episode, I want to talk about Chineke Chiamaka. So the first episode in this chapter is about the reckless driver. Then the second episode, dear students, is about now Pastor Chineke Chiamaka. Now, the first episode, the reckless driver. Why do you think I talked about Chineke Chiamaka but not Pastor Chineke Chiamaka in the first episode? So here is the reason. So this particular character became, or rather got into religion after he had got some experience, some bad experience in which he survived miraculously. So in the first episode, that is talking about the reckless driver. So the chapter begins with a flashback. So it introduces Pastor Chiamaka as a driver who is reckless. So this before he becomes a pastor. So in a flashback, the chapter introduces Pastor Chiamaka, or rather Chiamaka, as a driver who is reckless. So we are told that he always drove dangerously with an elbow sticking out of a window and the radio playing the latest hit songs. So this is something that we have seen, in cities or major towns and so on. That is, you find somebody uh, driving at should we call it a neck break speed, with music, some of the latest songs played, loudly in their vehicles. So that is exactly what Chineke Chiamaka, does. So most people despised him. So most people despised Chiamaka because he drove recklessly. Not only recklessly, but we are also told that he also drove carelessly. So most people despised him for all that, except for his brother by the name Obina. So we are also coming across a new character, dear students, by the name Obina. So Obina is a minor character. So we say that Obina is a minor character because he is not playing any important role, that is related or tied to the central characters, or the four central characters that we are focusing on. So Obina is a minor character. So he is Chineke Chiamaka's brother, and he is also an evening student at University of Lagos in Nigeria. So we are made to understand that Chineke Chiamaka became so careless that he didn't even care for other drivers. So he did not have road ethics. So he did not care for other drivers and would change mind in middle traffic and decide to drive to his destination. The next question, dear students, how did Chineke Chiamaka acquire his driving license? Because that is something that happens a lot. We have got teenagers driving, again driving very posh vehicles, posh cars without licenses. Then after a week or two, they have valid driver's license. So that brings another question that I'm not going to talk about right now in our country. So we are told that he never cared for other drivers. So one day Chiamaka drove into trouble. So he now gets himself into trouble. So one day Chiamaka drove into trouble when he was driving against the flow of vehicles out of Lagos to a place known as Holy Camp, hoping that he would move or rather return to the correct lanes after all, not knowing what fate had in store for him. So, dear students, what happens? What happens this time round? What happens this time? What happens this time round? So, the next thing is that his Mercedes. So, Pastor Chineke Chiamaka, or rather Chineke Chiamaka, is driving a German machine. This is a German machine. Okay, that's just a by the way. So his Mercedes flew off the road and spun in the air several times when he ran into a mean machine, a fire engine that was massive and unstoppable. So Chineke Chiamaka finally got to know what Mother Fate had in store. So we are told that he miraculously, escaped without injuries. Then in this episode, we also told that no single motorist stopped because in Nigeria this was a norm. They feared that some of these accidents were some traps. They were some armed robbery traps. And another thing is that the fire engine had also vanished. So this is now where we get to know about Pastor Chineke Chiamaka. Because after miraculously surviving this accident, he turned to religion and became a believer, bringing us into the next episode, that is Pastor Chineke Chiamaka. So after the accident, dear students, after the accident, this guy, Chineke Chiamaka, now Pastor Chineke Chiamaka. So he became a preacher. I've been in different cities, dear students. I've seen people opening churches. So I don't want to say that that is my opinion. That is what I opine. But when I'm trying to relate whatever is happening in this episode with some of the experiences that I've had. So, after the incident, after the accident, so Rich Yamaka became a preacher. He did not attend any seminary, but acquired the skills by nodding in agreement with the points made in church and also creating rapport with uh, other preachers or with the preachers who made these points. So for him to become a preacher, he did not attend any seminary. He just studied, so he observed and learned how preachers who had been in the field conducted themselves during sermons. So Pastor Chiamaka then perfected the actual techniques and preached everywhere. So later on, he had a church of his own. So this is where I was talking about, people opening up their own churches. But I'm just trying to uh, relate to what I've seen with what is happening in this chapter and this episode, to be specific. So uh, he approved that he was the real thing. That is after opening his own church. So one Sunday, Pastor Chineke Chiamaka, this is now after turning into religion. So one Sunday he gave a powerful sermon by reminding the congregation to always do what is good. So the sermon was something to do with the God is seeing you. So he was reminding the congregation uh, to do what is right because God is always watching over them. But again, the sermon that he gave in the next Sunday was a very combative one. So it was a combative sermon because in this sermon, dear students, Pastor Chineke Chiamaka attacked the president. And what was the reason? What was the reason behind this attack? So the reason was simply because the president made a public memo. So he wrote, he made a public memo that he wrote to advise, his staff about the ongoing problem. So instead of instead of coming up with a solution to these problems, he made a public memo that he wrote to advise the staff. So this offended Pastor Chineke Chiamaka. And it is this last sermon that led to his misery. So I don't know whether to talk about misery or victory, because later on he emerges victorious after the path alpha carries the day. So on to the next Monday, that is after the sermon, Pastor Chineke Chiamaka was arrested and put behind bars for 2 weeks, where we are told that he shared, a cell that is rat infested with other inmates that are said were smelly. So the next thing is that Pastor Chineke Chiamaka is finally set free, dear students. So he is finally set free on the third week. But now the disadvantage part is that he is barred, or rather banned from preaching. So we are also told in the same chapter that after 2 years of his release, that is 2 years later, he met Mr. Tad Longway. So at this time, Mr. Tad Longway invited him to join the Path Alpha. So this is something that Pastor Chineke Chiamaka did readily, without hesitating. So he readily joined, that is the Agency for Governance and Development Africa project without hesitating. Thank you for keeping it easy, Elimu, dear students, and let us meet in the next episode. Thank you for watching.